this is great, really, if you're a beginner sewing and you want to test using your buttonhole foot without messing up your actual shirt or whatever it is that you're putting a button on. This is a great way to practice with a buttonhole foot. A great way to use your scrap materials. A great way to practice stitching on the curves. That's really good, really. This will really help you. And just have a cute little organizer for your cable. So this is a win type of video for you. And so today we're going to make two. One is not perfect because I make mistakes, but I'm going to show you anyway. And then the second one came out a little bit better, okay? So as you can see, I have tons of cables that some of them I don't even use anymore because, technology changed. And so you now don't use this cable anymore for your phone or whatever. So it's time to get organized. I'm not going to put you through the pain of going through the cables and seeing which cable is which, okay? But I am going to show you something that I have used that have kept my cables from tingling up, not only around the house, but also when I'm traveling. I made these before in this video right here where I show you how to make these cable organizers using your embroidery machine. And I started testing different fabrics and different things to make these cable organizers using just quilting cotton. And you can literally make it like this with just one rectangle. So it's very similar to that. I tested with this shape, which is similar. Inspired by the original shape of the embroidered cable organizers, which is this one. Okay. And that's how I came up with this little pattern, and I traced it on freezer paper. To cut my fabric. It's a little bit big because I have to add the seam allowance, but you can make this any shape you want in any size you want. Make it bigger, smaller, whatever. I will scan this and add it to the description of this video if you want to download it for free. I will make it better though, because I still have to add a couple of things, but when it's down in the description of the video, it's gonna be fine. What you will need, of course, scrap material. So I have like a bunch of fabric here. Like, find all your scraps material, and the size needs to be at least, if you're using one piece of fabric that is the same color on both sides, it can be 12 by 5, or you can use 2 pieces of fabric that are about 6.5 by 5. Okay, so you will need that. You will need, of course, your sewing machine and the buttonhole foot. You will need some snaps. So I have these but you can use whatever snaps you want. Color, fashion snaps is good, but you do need some sort of closure, okay, for your cable organizers. So some sort of snaps. If you have a hole puncher, then definitely you will need that. If not, just any way to, punch a hole on your fabric that you may have. And that's it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to use the quilting cotton. Okay, that's what I'm going to use for this project. And I went ahead and added some woven interfacing to this fabric already. It's just a little piece. This is about, let me see, 1, 2, 3. It's 12 by 5. So I say no smaller than that, 12 by 5 piece, because you are going to need 2 of these and that is exactly enough. So maybe 13 by 5, but no less than that. And so let's go. I'm gonna go ahead and trace this, okay, here on my fabric. That's all right. And I'm gonna trace the other one as well. So what I'm going to do is join them right sides together, and we're going to stitch them. I gave it a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and go ahead and stitch them, but leave an opening here at the bottom of about 2 inches because we have to turn them right side out. So let me get my sewing machine now. I'm going to join both pieces of fabric right sides together. Okay, so I'm gonna start right there where that pin is. So not right at the curve, but at the beginning of the curve. And back stitch a couple of times to secure my stitching. Take your time if curves are not your best friend. Just take your time with the curves because, yeah, they, you know, they tend to not want to go with the foot. So you can just lift your foot a little bit, move the fabric, and keep going. Just make sure that when you lift your foot, the needle is down. Okay, so what we're going to do next is clip all the curves. Okay. Another thing I like to do is press this if you want the opening area, so when you flip it, it's nice and smooth. That is completely optional, but I mean, it is nice. So now let's go ahead and turn this right side out. Okay, so we turn this right side out. Use your fingers. If you have a turning tool that you want to use, you can use it. Really, it's up to you. But at this point, once we get to this stage, I am going to press this. I'm going to press it so that it's nice and smooth. Okay, so let me get, and I can already tell you, you know, this is how it is, but I can already tell you that I didn't stitch it deep enough here on the sides. So it's okay. The next one will be better. You know, it's funny how people don't realize how much ironing you do when you're sewing. They're like, oh, no, iron is like as important as the sewing machine. Okay. So I think the next one, I am going to actually do the opening on the side instead of on the top. because I am doing this and I don't really like how it's looking. It's looking kind of square, so maybe that wasn't a good idea. But it's okay. Well, the next one that we do, I'll do the opening on the side. I'm going to top stitch it all around it, okay, before we add the buttonhole. So get your sewing machine, and that way we close that opening, okay, and then we can start doing the buttonholes. And for the top stitching, the length is about 4 millimeters. Okay, now the moment of truth. Let's add the buttonhole, okay? So let me take my foot, and your buttonhole foot is usually the long one right there. If you're not familiar with it, it's this long buttonhole. I mean, it's this long foot, okay? So foot has this kind of like a lever here that it pulls up and down. This is the distance of your button. Okay, so depending on how big you have this is how big your buttonhole is going to be. If it's smaller like that, then it's going to be a tiny buttonhole. I'm going to put it to the maximum because it's okay. I don't really have a button, and I can just, you know, if I have enough, I want enough room to be able to fit the cables, because sometimes the cables are, they have like a thick ending like this or like this. You know, we still use these USB things. So this needs a lot of room to fit through the hole. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now let me move the sewing machine again. Usually I have the sewing machine in that table, but for the video I move it here so that you can see better. Okay, so the pattern has the marks here where the center is. I'm going to place that pattern. Look how crooked it is. Oh my God, this is very crooked, you guys. Yeah, the next one's gonna be better. Okay, we're just testing, right? We're just playing. Okay, so I took the pattern and I'm going to draw the lines from that mark, from the cutout in the center of my pattern here. Okay, so there it goes. Or you can always measure it. Find the middle point by folding it in half, and then fold it again, and then you can kind of see, oh, this is my middle, and you can do it that way. The most important thing is that you, first of all, that you place the markings on the wrong side of your material, the side that nobody's gonna see supposedly. Okay, so the wrong side, and you're going to place a line right at the bottom where you want your stitching to begin. That's important, okay? So like that. You're gonna place a line right there where you want your beginning stitching for your buttonhole, okay? So once we have that done, we're going to put the presser foot. We're gonna swap, the presser foot. And if you don't, I mean, if you're familiar with how to do buttonholes, then you probably don't need to see this. You can just watch me do it, suffer. You can watch me suffer. But if you've never done this, I highly recommend you check your manual instructions. That's what I did. In general, they all work the same, but you know, your machine might be a little bit different. I don't know. Okay. So, okay. So both threads are under the foot. And like I said, I have this to the maximum. We're going to test. Now there's a little lever here on the back of your machine that you're going to take all the way down. And that is what's going to help determine the distance of your hole. And then you're going to select the right stitching on your sewing machine. For this sewing machine, this is the Brother SE 1900. And so I have it here. This is the selection, okay, the stitching selection. You are going to go to 4, and I like just the basic standard buttonhole. And you see how the design changed here, and it tells you now to use presser A, which is that presser that we just installed. Okay, so that tells me is set and ready to go. The next thing we're going to do, and this is the tricky part, is that you need to put that presser, oh, I'm sorry, oh yeah, it's correct. Okay, you need to make sure that there are lines here on your buttonhole presser foot, that you match those lines to that line that you drew on your fabric. So as close as you can. Okay, it may not be exact, but you're going to get this center line in the center here of your presser foot. So that line, and there are 2 other lines, and that's the horizontal line that you drew. Actually, yeah. And it will start doing it by itself. That's a wrong button. I did it twice by mistake, but it's okay. Here is, you can probably barely see it. Let's do the second one, and hopefully it's better, but look how long it is. Wow, yeah, that's long. Okay, let's do the second one. And again, I'm just looking for that line. Actually, I'm gonna make the line extra long so that I can really see it. Okay, I'm not gonna stitch it again. That was obviously too much. But anyway, there they are. I have my 2 buttonholes. So let's go ahead and open them now. Now we can get our seam ripper, and this is truly the only time when using the seam ripper doesn't get us in a bad mood. But go ahead and take a couple of pins and place them right at the end of your both ends of your buttonhole stitching. You want to do this because we're getting ready to rip in the center of these buttonholes, and we don't want to keep going. The pins will help us. It will stop us. Okay. So here we go. Moment of truth. See, it stops me. I can't go any further. And next one. Wow, nice. Okay. This first one I stitched twice by mistake, but this one I didn't. And you know what? I kind of like the double stitching look. You can barely see it. The next one that we do, we're gonna make with a lighter color. But what I wanted to test was really the thickness, you know, and make sure that if I have a cable this big, for example, that it will fit in there perfectly. And yes, that works out. And then I can just, I can even put this one here as well. And yes, I like it. Okay. So let's go ahead and modify this pattern a little bit more. Now, I do want this to be as big as this because depending on how big or how long your cable is or how thick it is, you may need, like in this case, for example, I needed something bigger because this is a long cable and it's thick, right? But then you have other cases where it's just a little tiny cable, so you don't really need that much. So you can modify this, make it a little smaller, larger, make it square, whatever you want. I'm gonna make another one with like a lighter color so that you can see it better in the camera, and hopefully I do a better job stitching the round edges. Consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel if you have learned something today. So let's go ahead and add the woven interfacing to the fabric. Now this piece of fabric already has some woven interfacing from a previous project. I'm just going to press it, make it nice and flat and warm. I'm still going to add a little bit of woven interfacing to the section here. And as you can see, because I'm cutting two pieces of material, one is bigger than the other, but it's okay because, you know, it's enough material for the pattern here and then the same over here. So it should be okay. So if you don't have an entire piece of 12 by 5, then you can do 6 by 5 and then 2 of that size. And I have this interfacing that I'm testing that I bought at TikTok a while back, not long ago actually, this week. And I'm testing it and see how good is it. It's easier to use because it comes in a roll, so that really helps. Okay, so I'm gonna flip it and press it. This one feels a little stiffer, so this is more like a medium weight interfacing. This one is a little more lightweight. Okay. Next. Okay. And again, I'm just gonna trace it. Now, one thing that you can do if you want with the freezer paper is put your freezer paper with the shiny side down and press it on your fabric like this. And now it doesn't move. And then you can just trace it. But this ink erases with the heat, so I have to wait for it to cool down. Or you can just trace it directly like this. Ooh. And it peels right off. Great. Then the other one. Ooh, it's hot. So I have my exterior and the lining. You can get very creative with these cable organizers. So I'm just gonna put this aside. So now that I have my matching thread, top and bobbin, I am going to join my two pieces of fabric and right sides together. And again, beginning and stopping at a distance where I can actually turn it, you know, enough, like 2 inches. What I'm going to do is not leave the opening on the top like I did previously. I'm actually going to leave the opening right here on the side, or maybe like right here, right after the curve on the side. That way I have, I have a nice round edge here as much as possible. And we'll see. And if the round edges kind of don't work because, I don't know, they're too difficult to stitch or whatever that might be the situation, I'll just change the pattern to squares. I don't know. What do you think? What's the most important is that I mean, this can be a rectangle. It doesn't have to even be the round shape or anything. It can literally be a rectangle. The most important thing is doing the buttonholes. It's making sure you get the buttonholes done right in the center, you know, where they're supposed to go. The rest, you know, it's just a matter of preference. One thing I'm gonna do, because I didn't do very well with the first one on right here on the inner curve, is that I'm going to mark a 1/4 inch with my pen so that I know this is the area where I need to stitch. No smaller than that, right? If it's deeper, even better. It's okay, but at least no less than that. Okay, so I'm gonna start here, and like I said, I'm just going to leave that area open. Okay, change my stitching here on my machine, and I like my stitching to be about 3 or 3.5 millimeters. Oh, I had this. Okay. Perfect. Oh, okay. Sorry, all kinds of things. I took the presser foot out of the machine. Okay, now let's get started. I'm going to leave that space here, and then I'm going to start stitching right here at the curve. Okay, so what I did is that I left this area right here on the side open. Now I'm just going to clip the corners again. Once you clip all the corners, you're going to turn it right side out through that opening, and hopefully the opening is big enough, because I have a feeling it's not that big, but it's just enough to get it through. I know it is. So you just slowly but surely, you can just get it through here. And it's looking a lot better. It's looking a lot better. And I noticed that the first one that we did together, I probably didn't use the full 3/4 of an inch, no, 1/4 inch seam allowance, because it looks bigger. So, you know, this is starting to look a lot better. But so once I press it and I top stitch it all around it, it's going to be really, really nice. So one thing I probably would do next time, you know, and I suggest you do, because I'm gonna make several of these, right, for my cables, is trim off the seam allowance. Once you finish stitching it, just trim off the like by half, because that way it avoids some of the bulkiness. It's starting to feel a little bulky in the corners, but I mean, that's a matter of preference. Plus it is going to get flattened with the iron, but you see that amount of distance in there, you can just trim that off, and it will actually help the curve be nice and smooth. You see the difference? Now it's nice and smooth, and look at this one, has like a little pointy area, and that could be because of that. So yeah, just take your seam allowance and just cut it by half, you know, trim it by half. Don't cut the stitching. Okay, and then there you go. Much better. Oh yeah, definitely do that. Definitely. Okay, so I'm going to top stitch it all around it so that I can close the opening. And next, we're going to add the buttonholes. Again, we're just going to take the pattern, and I'm going to mark it on the lining side, not the wrong side, the lining side, and just try to match it right there. You see the distance is the seam allowance. Okay, so there are the two lines. Here's one line, here's the other line, and they're there barely. You can barely see them, but and we can actually probably do this one line a little closer, so I may have to change the pattern a little bit, but when I do all these and I put the pattern for you to download, it's going to be perfect. So by the time you watch this video, it's going to be perfect. You're just watching the behind the scenes of how I made it. Okay, so that's one thing. Then the other thing is to draw a little line, and you want to use, especially if you have a material like light like this one, something that will eventually not be noticeable anymore. So I'm going to use this chalk, but for the, you know, for the video, I'm using this material, this pen or whatever. But for yourself, just make sure you use something that you can then wipe off or erase. So erasable ink or something like that. And then I'm just going to draw this line right here. There and there. Okay. And as you can see, the line where the beginning of the buttonhole, this line is the beginning of the buttonhole, and it's a little bit lower than the middle of the cable organizer. This is the middle, so you want it to be, I don't know, like 3/8 of an inch. Yep, exactly, 3/8 of an inch lower than the center, so that you give it enough room to, you know, stitch. So I marked this about an inch, and now I'm gonna put it in my sewing machine and go ahead and let the buttonhole do its magic, do its work. So I'm going to select my buttonhole here. Okay, like we did on the first one, this step is pretty much the same. And I remove my presser foot because my machine just pressed the button and it does it on its own. Okay, let's see. Moment of truth. Okay, let's see. Oh, it looks nice. Can you tell? Can you see it? Yeah. Pretty. Okay, so same on the other side now. Yay. Okay. Perfect. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so now I'm just gonna trim off all the little excess pieces of thread, and just remember that whatever bobbin thread you use, most likely is going to be the thread that's on the outside of your cable organizer, because you're marking the lining. So that is going to be the top thread. But this turned out really good. So now let's get our seam reaper and a couple of pins here so that we don't cut our fabric, because we have to open the holes. Oh, this is looking good. And let's test the bigger cable. And it's a little tight. It's a little tight, so may not work, but it's because it's not fully open. I still have a little piece of material there that I haven't ripped, but it's okay. It's good. It will fit. But that's how it looks. Okay, looks nice and cute. Now the final step is to add a snap. And for that, you can, you know, use plastic snap, fashion snaps, but you do need some sort of closure so that it stays in place. So I am going to use some plastic snaps that I have here that I purchased a while back. So I went ahead and I opened the hole here a little bit more, and yeah, I was able to fit this cable that is kind of big. It fit right through it. So this actually worked really, really well. For the snap or the closure that you decide to use, I have this little tool that is just plastic snaps. You can do You can do like fashion snaps as well. These are okay because, you know, they look cute with the colors or whatever. These are great for like a teenager or even a kid that has some electronics or whatnot. So I am going to eyeball it, but you want to be as close to the center as possible, right? And maybe half an inch down from the center, not, you know, not more than that. So if I measure it right here, then half an inch down, my measurement is somewhere right here. Okay, that's where my measurement is. And I will add that to the pattern when I download it. So, but with both pieces of fabric together like this, I am going to punch the hole right on that marking that I just placed. And you do it with both pieces of fabric together, so that way the hole is at the, you know, right place. Okay. So where's my center? Right there. And just punch the hole. Perfect. Nice. And I am just going to get some cute, this is purple, that's cute, color here. Voila! Here's another cable organizer. Perfect, that you can make with your quilting cotton and your regular sewing machine. I hope you enjoy making these. Like I mentioned, I'm going to add the link in the description with the pattern all done right. And I'm just going to start making more of this because I have plenty of cables to organize. Now, if you want to learn how to do this with the embroidery machine, I have a whole video here showing you how to do that. And I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.